Just like wealth and poverty, power and weakness are two trials, two sides of the same coin, and many people fail this exam as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Kahf the story of Dhul Qarnayn. And Dhul Qarnayn means the one with two horns. And some say this was a reference to his helmet, it had two horns on it, or the way he styled his hair, it was in two braids, or the fact that he conquered two great empires, perhaps Rome and Persia. We're not really privy to the fact of why he was given this name, but this was his title, not his name. And that led to a lot of speculation about who exactly he was. And this is what actually prompted this revelation, that the Jews came to the Prophet ﷺ and they asked him, tell us about this king, tell us about this person if you're truly a prophet. And Allah revealed his story. But just like with these questions that prompted some of this revelation, like the story of Dhul Qarnayn that we're speaking about, and some of the details of Ashab al-Kahf, the young men who fled to the cave, how many were they, how long did they spend there, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlights that these details that people are asking about are actually not important. They're not the point of the story. And the point of this story is that power, authority, only has one purpose. It's a trial to see if those who wield it, those who are blessed with it, those who are tested with it, are able to uphold justice using it, are able to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala despite the huge temptation to use it for personal gain, despite the huge opportunity it presents for the wielder to do as he pleases with no repercussions. So Dhul Qarnayn, he was a king, a righteous king. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about him, إِنَّا مَكَّنَّا لَهُ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَآتَيْنَاهُ مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ سَبَبًا فَأَتْبَعَ سَبَبًا. He was a righteous king that we established, we granted authority, and we gave him the means to fulfilling everything that he wanted. An army, power, wealth, that gave him the means to do as he pleased. So what did he do with that wealth? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says he went on a journey. He began to traverse the land. He didn't sit in his throne room amassing gold and silver, building monuments in his name or statues in his likening. He went about his kingdom in the lands that he had control over with his army, upholding justice and fulfilling the needs of people, which is the purpose of power. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about the first group of people that he encountered. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغَ مَغْرِبَ الشَّمْسِ وَجَدَهَا تَغْرُبُ فِي عَيْنٍ حَمِئَةٍ وَوَجَدَ عِنْدَهَا قَوْمًا قُلْنَا يَا ذَا الْقَرْنَيْنِ إِمَّا أَن تُعَذِّبَ وَإِمَّا أَن تَتَّخِذَ فِيهِمْ حُسْنًا. That he continued on this journey until he came across a group of people all the way at the most western boundaries of his kingdom, as far west as he can go, where the sun now sets into water at the very horizon. And he found there a group of people, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired him that you have authority over these people. You can choose to torment them, or you can choose to show them kindness, to show them goodness. And Dhul Qarnayn, he responded by saying that we will show kindness to those who did righteous actions. We will give them leniency in their affair. And as for those who oppressed others, those who spread corruption, then they will be tormented, they will be subjugated. And you may be hearing this and think, well, obviously, how's that an accomplishment? How is that praiseworthy? But I challenge us to think about the leaders, the kings, the politicians all throughout history and in modern day. How often do they use their power and their authority to reward those who do good, to show them kindness and leniency, and to punish and to take into account those who do evil? Very often we see the complete opposite, that they favor those who do evil. They give them leniency. They give them leeway to act as they see fit. And then those who are righteous, those who try to do the right thing, are restricted and given a much more difficult time. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is highlighting his sound moral compass. So he says, قال أما من ظلم فسوف نعذبه ثم يرد إلى ربه فيعذبه عذابا نكرا وأما من آمن وعمل صالحا فله جزاء الحسنى وسنقول له من أمرنا يسرا. That those who are righteous, they will be treated with kindness, with leniency, with good treatment, and those who are oppressive and harmful and corrupting, they will be tormented, they will be more restricted, and then they will return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for their ultimate judgment, where he would punish them as well for their evil doing. So this highlights that the power didn't go to his head. It didn't become a personal tool that he wields against those he disliked and that he used to favor those that he liked. It was based on the objective justice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed. ثُمَّ أَتْبَعَ سَبَبًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, then he continued on his journey. The job wasn't finished. He still has power, he still has wealth, he still has authority, and he still has a mission to do as long as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is continuing to give him these blessings. حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغَ مَطْلِعَ الشَّمْسِ. Until he now comes to the easternmost corner of his empire, the furthest east that he could go. وَجَدَهَا تَطْلُعُ عَلَى قَوْمٍ لَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُم مِّن دُونِهَا سِتْرًا. He comes across a people now who they were unable to take any shelter from the sun. And the tafsir will mention that they had no buildings. They were a group of people who did not build. So they had no buildings from which they can use to shelter themselves, and they were a very sunny environment, perhaps a desert or something like that. And others mention this is a metaphor to say that they were unclothed. They were so basic that they did not even have clothing. And on to other explanations are all possibilities. But either way, the implication is he came there and then he helped them. He seen what he could do, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we were fully aware of him and his soldiers and his ability as he went about making these things his mission. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ثُمَّ أَتْبَعَ سَبَبًا. His mission again continued. حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغَ بَيْنَ السَّدَّيْنِ وَجَدَ مِن دُونِهِمَا قَوْمًا لَا يَكَادُونَ يَفْقَهُونَ قَوْلًا. Now he comes between a third group of people that reside between these large mountain passes, and they can barely understand him, and he can barely understand them. So there's this huge communication barrier. They're unable to understand one another. But that doesn't stop his mission. قَالُوا يَا ذَا الْقَرْنَيْنِ إِنَّ يَأْجُوجَ وَمَأْجُوجَ مُفْسِدُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. They told him, O Dhul Qarnayn, through whatever means they could speak with him, gestures or whatever may have been in their difficulty communicating. These two tribes called Ya'juj and Ma'juj, Gog and Magog, they are corruptors in the land. They kill, they pillage, they attack, they steal. فَهَلْ نَجْعَلْ لَكَ خَرْجًا. Can we provide you with a tribute? Can we pay? تَجْعَلْ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَهُمْ سَدًّا. That you now build a wall between us and them, a barrier so they're unable to harm us. قال ما مكني فيه ربي خير فأعينوني بقوة أجعل بينكم وبينهم ردما. He responds, all these blessings that you see, this ability, this wealth, this authority, that's so much better than the tribute that you can give me, what Allah already blessed me with. I'm not hungry for more. And this again highlights his morality, because all throughout history, with almost no exceptions, people who had power wanted more power. People who had wealth want more wealth. Here he's saying, I'm satisfied. Allah has already given me everything that you see. So that's more than enough. I don't need your payment. But I will ask that you help me, that you give me manpower, so that I can build between you and them a complete dam, a complete ceiling, not just a wall. So he wasn't just satisfied with fulfilling the request. He said, I'll do something better. I'll do it with itqan, with ihsan, with perfection, with excellence to the best of my ability, of not just building a wall between you and them, but a complete enclosure such that they can never traverse it and come back to harm you. But I'll need your help. A'inuni biquwwa. Help me with manpower. So he directs them now to provide the material, to provide the manpower, to provide help with the process of sealing them in. He says, Atuni zubra al-hadid. Bring me now with molten iron. حتى إذا ساوى بين الصدفين قال انفخوا. Until he pours it into this mountain pass, enclosing this valley, and they begin to blow on it with their bellows to make it hotter, and then for it to eventually harden. And then now he seals it off completely, and they're unable to traverse it and to continue to attack these neighboring tribes. فَمَا اسْطَاعُوا أَنْ يَظْهَرُوهُ وَمَا اسْتَطَاعُوا لَهُ نَقْبًا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says they were unable to traverse it, they were unable to go over it, nor were they able to bore through it to make a hole and get to the other side. قَالَ هَذَا رَحْمَةٌ مِّن رَبِّي. He said, this is a mercy from Allah. He didn't say, etch my name on the bottom. He didn't say, make sure that the generations to come know that this is my legacy, this is the wall of Dhul Qarnayn. He said, this is a mercy from Allah, that He made this possible, that He gave me the ability to help, that He brought this to fruition. Exactly as our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught us to say, upon the completion of any good deed, Alhamdulillah alladhi bi ni'matihi tutimmu salihat. All praise and thanks and good mention belong to Allah, in whose name and by whose blessings good things come to fruition. So he said, this is a mercy from Allah, and when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, it will be reduced to ash. That this protection will not last forever, but only for as long as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي جَعَلَهُ دَكَّا وَكَانَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي حَقًّا. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's promise comes to pass, He'll turn it into scattered dust. And the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is true. A reminder that even with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with, he recognized that everything is temporary, that relief from difficulty is temporary, just as persevering and struggling through difficulty is temporary. We saw how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed Dhul Qarnayn with power, with might, and he used it to go on a philanthropic journey of uplifting others, of utilizing the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him correctly for the sake of justice and for the sake of truth. And he came across this first group and he expressed to them his clear moral compass of how he will deal with them in accordance to a manner that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But his journey didn't end there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ثُمَّ أَتْبَعَ سَبَبًا. He continued on his journey. He took another path. He went in a completely different direction now, searching for more good to do, searching for more ways to utilize these blessings of power, of might, of wealth, of authority that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him, to make sure that he expends it to the best of his ability. He makes it his life purpose to fulfill this duty that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed upon him. Let's see the other groups that he meets now and how he deals with them and how he uses his power in a way that will uplift them and help them. Didn't allow the power to come to his head. So we see that Dhul Qarnayn didn't allow the power to get to his head. He meets this group of people and he deals with them only in according to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with. He makes it very clear to them that there will be a moral standard, and that is the responsibility of leadership. The world could do so much more with righteous, morally sound leadership. And I invite all of us to contemplate and to reflect in whatever capacities that we are the authorities, in whatever settings or contexts Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed us over others. Are we being morally sound? Are we upholding the rule of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in whatever capacity He placed in front of us? Are we making sure that those who answer to us or work with us know that this is our conviction, this is our principled stance, and we don't operate based on our own personal whims or desires or what pleases us or benefits us? The story of Dhul Qarnayn is a framework for righteous leadership that we could all constantly refer back to in whatever frames of authority that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us in. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us upholders of justice in whatever capacity we have in front of us, to give us the means to uplift others, and to do so in a standard that is in compliance with His pleasure subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us agents of justice, to allow us to wield whatever abilities that we have or authority that we have or connections that we have, to wield them for His sake and for the betterment of His creation and purely for the upliftment and upholding of justice worldwide.